You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
I'm Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. OH, baby, off and running. Follow that up with the IO and a national championship edition of the Sports Fix is on the air because, as you know, as many of you stayed up and hopefully reveled in last night, Ohio State did not just win the national championship. They stomped the Oregon Ducks and just cemented their place in history, not just for winning the first, I guess, you know, as I keep saying, official national title game, but the first that had a playoff attached to it. But I'm telling you, and I'm going to ask you guys throughout the show. I'll talk to Jeff Gorman in a little bit. Dr. Football's with us. I'm going to ask Dan Wismar tomorrow his thoughts as well as far as, man, name me a few others. We can probably dig up a couple of inspirational seasons, not just Ohio State, but in college football, in sports. But it's going to be up there. This is going to be up there, no doubt at all. Urban Meyer was not over-speaking, I don't think, when he said this is one of the great stories in college football history. And, again, I challenge anybody to think about that, not in an argumentative way. Think about it and holler back at me and let me know what you've got, because it's up there for sure. And a lot of things to talk about today. The game itself, obviously, the way it played out, a lot of things to come out of this game. Before we even go anywhere, I'm just going to throw this out there now. You can tell me I'm crazy and stop listening if you want. Something in my gut tells me that we may have seen the only 3 games Cardale Jones ever plays for the Ohio State Buckeyes. You can tell me I'm nuts. I'm not being one of those guys that goes, oh, wow, he won some games. Now he should go to the NFL. He's from Ohio State. Yay, go draft him to the Browns. Draft that man to the Browns. Whatever team takes him, to me, is developing a diamond in the rough, because he has a very rare set of physical tools, even if it's very underdeveloped. Dan Wismar and I yesterday, I think Dan thought I was crazy when I threw that out there and said, hey, if I'm Cardale Jones and we win this game and I look good, I'm out. But think about this, the way he played last night, to me, never. I don't care if he comes out and wins the Heisman next year. Never, to me, could his draft stock be any higher than it is right now. He has such a limited sample size. He came up huge in 3 huge moments as a third-string guy. He's got a rare gift of physical tools. To me, this guy could declare that he's coming out and sit back without throwing another football and be that guy who rises up from listening to Gruden and Kuiper and all these guys and everybody talk him up. Next thing you know, he'll go from, well, should a team spend a draft pick on him to, well, he's a mid-round developmental guy. These cats, if they could talk people into Johnny Manziel and Brandon Wheaton and some of this stuff that we've seen, tell me that you couldn't talk. Let these talking heads, some team will not talk Cardale Jones right into the first round of the draft, man. Whether he deserves it or not, I'm not saying. I mean, that's clearly a developmental project, but man, I'd sure love to develop that here in Cleveland, man. I'm just saying, we love hometown stories, but my gut tells me, as crazy as it sounds, I said it yesterday, we may have seen the only 3 college football games that that young man plays, because I just cannot see a scenario where his stock could be any higher. Anyways, as we get into it, Charles Morgan in the chat room. I have to give him a shout out before we even get rolling with the show. Nobody could get it closer than the score that he predicted yesterday. Charles laid it out. 42-21 was his prediction. 42-20, the final score. I'll tell you what, Coach Tress also nailed it yesterday. He had predicted 38-20, and a lot of people got on him on the national stage when he said that, but he predicted, Jim Tressel, 38-20, 42-20, the score there. But yeah, Charles, pat yourself on the back, because you came within 1 point of nailing that perfect. 42 points. For those of you that listened yesterday, Dan Wismar and I were talking about this. Of all the predictions that we got, the largest number of one score was 42. 37 different people in their predictions had 42 as the score for Ohio State. No other individual score was close. So we were joking about it yesterday, and they really did hit 42 a bunch of times anyway. And when they scored that final touchdown, I looked at my son and I said, they're going to score 42. And he laughed, and he had school yesterday, so he did not listen to the show. He goes, why is that so funny? I said, because we literally talked about the number 42 being the magic number on today's show, and boom, they nailed it. So if you listen, you know why that was funny. I had a few of you even hit me up last night and go, what's up with the 42? I said, I know. But anyways, congratulations to Charles there for nailing that score. And we're going to talk about the game, obviously, a lot. First hour dedicated here, Ohio State Buckeyes, national champions. This one is not controversial. It's not, there's nobody that was left out of the dance. I don't care. TCU, I don't want to hear it. There is nobody that can argue with this one, and the Ohio State Buckeyes first formal playoff style national champions. Jeff Gorman. Normally we do the baseball thing today, but not today, man. It is National Championship Tuesday, baby, as the Ohio State Buckeyes have now won the 5th most national titles in the era of the polls and the national titles since 1936. The only schools to have won more national titles now than the Buckeyes. Alabama leads the way with 10, Notre Dame with 8, Oklahoma and USC just one more than the Buckeyes at 7. So next season, the Buckeyes can look ahead to tying that one, because, brother, this wasn't even supposed to happen until next year. Dan and I have been saying, Dan's our regular Buckeye conversation, and we've been all season long talking about, boy, this is really all set up for next year. And this season was supposed to be to get as much as you could out of it, especially after the stuff early on. And then, man, I'll tell you what, can you say, and I'm not doing, this is not the usual, hey, we win a few games and now we feel good about ourselves. Can you say dynasty and seriously think ahead to the next couple of seasons? The recruits that are still coming. Speaking of, this is where you're at when you're Urban Meyer. You're winning a national title, and at halftime, you're locking up recruits at the same time, man. You got to love that. For those of you guys that didn't notice, we'll talk more about that later on here. A couple of recruits commit during halftime of this thing last night. But, man, just a feel-good night, and like I said, think ahead for the next few years. Look at what's coming. I think they've got a half a dozen more quarterbacks eligible to play next year, man. So I'll tell you what, going to be a lot of fun in the future. Going to be a lot of fun today to talk about it. Let's do it, and I want to talk to you, of course, so let's get rolling. Welcome, my friends, to the Sports Fix. J-Rock with you here. That's me, Jerry Myers. If you're here for the first time, or if you're here every day, welcome in live across the Sports Fix radio network. Maybe you're enjoying the show on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio apps worldwide. Maybe you're listening on Spreaker and Mixlr and their digital applications. Shout out to everybody enjoying the show live as well. On our home base, thesportsfix.net. It is your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports and Sports Fix, replays of the show, all of that. Bookmark it today. Plus, if any of the sites that whatever you're listening to the show on right now, if there's ever a day where it fails, if there's ever a day where it's not working, sometimes that stuff happens. Fail safe. You can always go jump right on the sportsfix.net show blast live. You don't even have to hit the play button. I made it safe and easy for lazy people like myself. You just go to the site and like manna from the heavens, boom, that voice just starts talking to you at noon. So anyways, bookmark it. You can tell I'm feeling good today. That and a couple of pots of coffee already. Just a limited amount of sleep last night. And anyways, having a good time today as we get rolling. Welcome in as well, all of you listening on digital delay 24/7 around the world on iHeartRadio and iTunes and Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all the different places that you listen to the show. Thank you so much, and participate today. Be a part of the show. Let's hear from you. Phones are open early, but then we're going to get a little bit busy, and I'll open them back up late. 216-539-7535. The number to call, 216-539-7535. Hit us up as well on our social media, Facebook and Twitter. People do it all the time. It continues to go. Matter of fact, our social media continues to expand. I think we're up over 23,000 combined followers. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Twitter, tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Of course, you can email us anytime, day or night. thesportsfix@AOL.com. Actually, any of that, anytime. This is social media. This is 2015. We are open for business 24 hours a day. That's why I never get any sleep. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. Email us thesportsfix@AOL.com. Before we get Jeff Gorman on, we'll start talking about the ins and outs of some different things, looking at the tail of the tape yesterday, and look at the way the game played out, kind of close to what Dan and I were talking about. I kind of foresaw a quick start for Oregon, and I said I could see them going up 14 points early on, 14-3, something like that. Wasn't quite that much, but they did jump out there early, and you're thinking, man, okay, right away, here comes Oregon. I think they didn't even go to a third down on that first drive. It was another one of those less than 3-minute specials that they're known for, and you're going, okay, Buckeyes answer right back. And at first they didn't, and you're going, boy, this could be a long night, man. And you're thinking, especially if you're all of us here in the Buckeye state that thought, okay, nobody else thinks the Buckeyes can do this, but these Buckeyes can play. At first, you're going, man, are we wrong? I'm not going to lie. My first few minutes, I'm going, man, you know what? This is the same way they started before, sit tight. But, in the back of your mind, you go, man, is this really? Maybe we were seeing it with the rose-colored, scarlet-colored glasses. But no, very quickly, it took that drive. They went down. Oregon did their thing. The Buckeyes defense started to figure things out, just like with Alabama. You could feel them grabbing hold of that game. You could feel the tide turning against the tide. No pun intended. Same thing here. You could feel it. Once they forced a couple of punts, by the end of the first quarter, I think Oregon had punted more than they had all season put together. No, I think that I did see they punted 3 times in the first quarter. They had not punted 3 times in one quarter previously since 2009. So it had been about a half a decade since they punted 3 times in one quarter, and you could feel it beginning to turn. But even then, hey, man, this was good. This was like with Alabama, man, when you're taking on the best. And that's really, seriously, guys, that's what these games felt like. Not so much FSU and Oregon. That game was a smash, but, Alabama and Ohio State, even with the domination in the trenches and the way Ohio State ran them down late, Alabama had some shots back. There was still some of that Rocky and Apollo Creed, 2 greats, and I've still got one more for you, and Ohio State had to play till the end with that game there. Same thing here. You still had a good team on the other side, but, man, by the fourth quarter, they were broken. Just like you could say, same thing. It was almost like what you saw in reverse of what they did to Florida State. By the end of that game, they were just getting knocked off the ball. And, I mean, you saw the offensive line getting knocked around. It was that proverbial snowball rolling downhill for Oregon at the end of the game. Mariota was getting beat up, and it rolled from there. But you could feel that game shifting practically from the first drive. It took a little while, and then there was still some moments where you go, hey, they get within 1 point all of a sudden. Every time it seemed like the Buckeyes got a little bit of room, and you start to go, man, here we go, getting right back into it.